Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Mazel Tov. Once again, you're going to pretend I'm there with you.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno! Today we're going to learn about the sum and differences of cubes. Sum meaning the addition sign, and difference meaning subtraction. This is different than the difference of two squares because there's both a sum and a difference. So moving to the next slide, if it goes to the next slide, we have all the cubes listed in order. So these are ones that we should know by heart, or could know by heart, as we should say. So 1, 8, 27, 64, 125. As we get to 216, 343, 512, 729, and 1000, it's a little more difficult. So hopefully we could be able to go both ways, both cube a number and then take the cube root, which is very, very important. So now these are the two formulas that you will need in order to factor the sum and the difference of two cubes. So if you look at this first example formula, we've got a to the third plus b to the third. So that would be the sum of two cubes. In the second example, or exemplar, what smart people say, is the difference of two cubes. Now, the formulas themselves look a little confusing, but what's essential is that for each time we factor the sum or difference of two cubes, we need to make sure we identify what the a value is and what the b value is every single time. And then you just simply plug it in to the correct formula. So this is one of those things where you have an example and you have such a lovely teacher teaching you that it may be helpful. So here are some of the steps. Identify the A, identify the B, figure out if it's a sum or a difference, and then plug it in. Plug and chug, baby. So now, I have g to the third minus 27. As always, we look for a greatest common factor, of which there is none. It's not the difference of two squares, because oftentimes when I see the minus there, it tells me the difference of two squares. But I have g to the third, which is a cube, and 27, which is a cube. So I say, yo, mama, it is the sum, no, actually it's the difference of two cubes. So remember, the first step when we found the difference of two cubes was to change the pen color, because I've got to figure that out, was to identify what the a value is and what the b value is. So what you need to do to get the a and the b is to simply take the cube root of each of the terms. So the cube root of g to the third, those undo or undress each other, is g. And then the cube root of 27 is 3. And then we plug it into the formula. So now we simply plug it into the correct formula and use the right pen color once again. So if this formula were not written down on my paper, I would definitely write it down. So it's going to be a, I'll repeat it, minus b, parentheses, a squared plus ab plus b squared. How do we remember that? I'll give you a little hint later. So a up here is really the letter G, which can be confusing, but just plug it in. And then there's a minus sign, so you bring down the minus. B is 3. So there's your first parentheses. And then a squared is really whatever a is, so it's in square, g squared, plus a times b, which would be g3, but we're cool, so we write 3g, kind of like the network, plus 3 squared, which is really 9. I could write 3 squared, but I'm put 9. So that's fully factored because that's the sum. I mean, that has two products there. Now, you want to make sure you cannot take out a greatest common factor. Now, on to the next one, as Jay-Z says. Moving on to the next one, as Jay-Z would say, on to the next one, on to the next one. I'm looking at this term, and I look for a greatest common factor, and there is none. And it's a binomial, so I look for first the difference of two squares, but there's a sum there. So I say, oh, geez, Allison, is this a perfect cube? Yes, I can take the cube root of d, and the cube root of d to the third is really d, so a equals d, ironically, and then the cube root of 8 is really 3, so then 2, equals 2, I apologize. I hope it's not too late to apologize. So now, I plug it into the formula where a is d and b is 2. So here's the formula, which I would write if it wasn't there already. So a is really the letter d with a plus sign. B is 2. Now, a squared would be d squared minus a times b, so 2 times d, plus 2 squared, which is really 4. So there we first did a difference of two cubes, and then we have the sum of two cubes. So how do we remember the formula? What I like to remember is that for the sum of two cubes, we've got a plus sign. For the difference of two cubes, there's a minus sign. So in the sum, I will write it down in blue. The sum has a sum in the first part of the parentheses, so it's a plus b. A squared, remember, because when I multiply a and a squared, I need to get a to the third because it's a cube, minus 2ab plus b squared. So this is always positive because we're squaring it. For the difference, sorry about that, we have a minus b, and then once again a squared plus 2ab with an always plus sign at the end. So I Googled this back in the day, when I was a teenager, before I had status and before I had a pager, and I saw on a website that somebody had remembered how to do this by remembering 4 letters. Now you should use this, oh, that's pink. You should use this every morning, every time you wash your hands, and this is S-O-A-P. If you don't know what that means, I'm going to try to insert a picture of it. S-O-A-N-P. So I couldn't find the soap, but this is what you should use every morning to shower. So this S stands for the same sign. It's always the same sign. So if I had a to the third plus b to the third, this is always the same sign as the original problem. This O stands for opposite sign, because we'll take the opposite of the original. And at the end, it's always positive. So down here, if I had a to the third minus b to the third, that's a negative, so this is the same sign, which is a negative. This means the opposite sign. That was a negative, so it becomes a excellent positive, and this is always positive. In this example, we have a binomial, and I'm moving it around. And first of all, we can notice that there's a common factor of 2 that can be factored out. So 2, 8, t to the third minus b to the sixth. And then there should be some alarm going off that says, wow, this is the difference of two cubes. So now let's figure out first what a is and what b is. But do not forget that to keep the 2 there. So if I'm using this correctly, a equals the cube root of 8 t to the third, which is really the cube root of 8, 2, and the cube root of t to the third, t. So that's the a value. The b value is the cube root of b to the 6th. So you divide 6 by 3 and you get b squared. Now, because this is more complicated, it's often easier to figure out the a squared and b squared value next. So a squared would be whatever a is, 2t squared. So that means you need to square both the 2 and the t, it's the entire quantity. So you get 4t squared, and then b squared is simply b squared squared, multiply those exponents, and you get b to the 4th. So now we have all the terms we need. And remember, we do not forget what number, and if you said the number 2, perfect. So let's move this up a little bit, I think, if that's working. So now is this the sum or the difference of two cubes, sorry. Well, it's a difference because there's a minus there. So I'm going to use the formula a minus b, sorry, that's pink, parentheses a squared plus ab plus b squared. And I'll put the 2 there because we need to put the 2 in front of it. So it becomes 2 parentheses a, which is 2t, minus b, oops, no, b is over here, b squared, parentheses a squared, which is really 4t squared, we got that there, plus a times b, so it's 2t times b squared, which would be 2b squared t, alphabetical order, plus b squared, which is b to the 4th. Perfecto, you are the reason why I get up in the morning. Now, that cannot be factored anymore because there are no greatest common factors. And booyah. On to the next one. Hi again. Before I let you go, let's just leave you with some words to the wise, which would be don't text and drive. That's words to live by. Hopefully I'll be able to do that too. And hopefully you enjoyed the video, and your homework is next. Make sure that you write down the formula for each of these. Okay? And have a nice day.